right, we are right at 7 o'clock, so I'll call tonight's council meeting to order. And could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Roberts.
Here.
Councilmember Valento.
Here.
Councilmember Husnick.
Here.
Councilmember Erickson.
Here.
Mayor Bain.
Here. I'd like to invite everyone to rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, so we have a special presentation this evening with recognition of our senior center volunteers. And Patrick, do you want to start us off for that?
Yes, this is a night where we recognize those volunteers who've helped make the senior center run, who have done an admirable job and have made the senior center a great place to go and a fun place to be. I will ask Jill to come up and read their names and hand them their certificates of appreciation. And if the council's interested, can come down and also shake their hands to congratulate them.
Yeah, council, let's do a little receiving line down all at the along the front. So as Jill reads your name, if you want to come up, receive your certificate, and then there's an opportunity to shake our hands as well. We thank you for all of your work and making the senior center such a fabulous place. So if you'll give us just a moment to get settled.
My God. Are you guys? Yeah. Ready? Mary Erkenbrack. Come on up. You do, you get to touch all of them.
And you put me first
I
to
did.
do this.
I did. Go ahead. Nancy Anderson. We love you too. Go this way, honey. Okay, that way works too. And her hubby, Jim. Come on up. Thank you. Jerry Friel. Judy Peterson. And her mom, Deb Peterson. Nope. Almost smooched ya. Mary Schumacher. Barb West. some tables to decorate tomorrow. Doris Sullivan.
No.
Yes. Thank you. You walk around.
I know.
Best behavior.
She's trying to shut me up. Saying, where's the party?
David Garrett. So Shirley Wallarack will be accepting this for David. Rick Mank. I have a funny story about him. When my dad had passed away, I was at work and he came in a convertible and handed me the keys and said, "Go have some fun." It was a beautiful car and it can get you in a lot of trouble. Tom Anderson.
Okay.
Janet Wiley.
I took a bath so you could.
Oh, girl.
Okay. Right hand?
Yep. Jean Halverson. You do too. Ginny Hartman.
Thanks for the invite, ladies.
Thank you.
It's been great.
It's Gwen Patrick. Melissa Walter. Remember? I told you. It's okay. Calvin Magnuson. I just want to say thank you to all of you. You guys have made this such an incredible journey. I couldn't do it without you. You make every day amazing and incredible, and I'm so lucky to be there with you. You've become like grandparents to me, and I'm just so thankful for each and every one of you. This is my life. Do you want to do a picture?
Yeah, Yeah, if you want to do it, you can do a picture. Do you want to do a picture here at council chambers? Or you want to do it upstairs?
What
Either
with
fine.
you guys up here?
Maybe upstairs.
After?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're going upstairs, stay that long. Going upstairs. Why should you do it right now? Upstairs. Or do you want one with us?
Because they want that.
Just do it. Do a picture upstairs. Yeah, okay.
And thank you, Joe, for making it.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you, Jill, for making the senior center just such a lively place, and you can just see the love in everyone's faces and just the appreciation they have for you. So thank you for a job very well done. Everyone is invited upstairs for a reception immediately following, like right now. We do have a full council meeting. If you want to stay, you're welcome to stay, but if you would rather retire upstairs for some refreshments, you're welcome to do so. And council will pause for just a few minutes to let everyone have a moment to get situated. Thank you for recognizing all these. Absolutely. Our pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. That'll work. Hold the door for you.
Okay, council, we do have an agenda before you. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, and motion carries. Our next item this evening is open forum. Open forum is any interested party's opportunity to address council on any topic of your choosing. We have a number of individuals signed up for open forum this evening. Is it Don Sullivan? I might be missing the first name. Is there a Mr. Sullivan? Who may have also have been here for the senior center. No, Mr. Sullivan? All right, Tom Shaw. If you could just state your address also for the record. Thank you.
My name is Tom Chell, and I'm 7480 North Shore Trail, Forest Lake. I have some questions and comments about the stormwater project on North Shore Trail. We were here last month, and I guess I've kind of heard, I know you're aware of the underground water filtration system that could have been installed. I know it was more expensive, but it would have resulted in level ground, not changing the depth, and it would have been very advantageous if we could have done that system, because it wouldn't have messed up the property, the view of it. I mentioned last time I was here that because of the west prevailing westerly wind, that ditch is filling up with leaves. And the grass that had started to grow, the only grass that grew, the highway mix that they had put in, well, the only grass that grew was the one that was being watered by my sprinkler system. On the one side, it was still barren. But now, I had mentioned last time I was here that my concern was with the leaves coming off the trees and with the westerly wind, it's filling up with leaves, which, I mean, it's pretty deep. And I question whether the grass is going to grow up. Another thing that's kind of come up with that project is it appears to be becoming a trash can for people driving down the road, especially ones that like to do a little illegal drinking. They like to get rid of their bottles before anyone catches them, so I'm finding those, and I don't feel like I should have to clean this thing out. the leaf thing is, you know, I used to take care of that when I mowed my lawn. Now it's so steep I can't mow it. My biggest concern is this project done, completed? Because I was told by Tim Olson, and Tim Olson's been very gracious. I've called him and he talked to me. One of the engineers from Bolt meant. And the elevations from sea level, 917, it was supposed to go down to 914. That's 3 feet. The last Bolt meant was out. The deepest on the one in front of my house is 911 and a half. So that's 2.5 feet deeper than the 914. And so it really is deep. I mean, when Tim came out and explained this thing, it was supposed to be a gradual swash. And it's more of a V. Now, when they did my neighbors to the south of me, his is flatter in the middle. Mine's, on the north end of it, it's kind of rounded, and on the south end, it's pretty steep. My concern is the steepness of it. I mow it as much as I can on the grass part, and I'm to the verge of tipping over. Just to the limit. So I would, if it could be just a little more gradual, it'd be safer for me. And my concern is that it be brought up to the 914 level that it should be on the plan. That's my concern. Now, is this thing, and I've been talking with Rusty, I know his concerns and his problems and all that. Is this thing completed now, or is it going to be completed in the spring, or what's the story with my portion where it's 911 and a half feet? It's too steep, too deep.
So fair question. I'm not sure we're prepared to give a full update yet this evening, but Ryan, could we have somebody contact Mr. Chell and kind of give an update of what's been talked about for kind of future plan? Or is it Tim at Bolton and Mink is that the right contact, or Dave, Ryan? I'm not sure. I hear a question. I'm just not sure we're ready to talk about an individual property this evening. But let's get you an answer for what's coming next.
Mayor, City Council will have Tim Olson reach out to this property owner and kind of give him an overview of next steps. And I know some additional stuff will be coming back towards you guys.
Correct. So overall, project is not complete. There will be a future phase. If you kind of, can we point to direction on when our last update was on, because we had, in our last update, we had some pretty specific feedback and timeline of what was happening next.
Yeah, being that we're running into the end of the year, I talked to Tim actually today, and we'll bring it back to council in January, since we'll be able then to, construction season's basically over, we're not gonna be able to do much. So in January, you'll see, the council will see this again.
So also by way of update, as council's considering what's next for that project, we have asked staff to make sure that you are notified of those meetings and are aware, so you're able to come and hear the conversation, get some answers, and kind of know what to expect. We recognize current state is not its final state, and so, but what specifically, should you expect for depths? I'm not sure we're prepared to answer that yet tonight.
I guess I just wanted duly noted that it's not to the specifications that were given to us. I mean, Tim
Fair.
Olson, the engineer, said it's only going to go down 3 feet. Well, 3 feet from 917 is 914, and that's what the plan shows.
Fair.
And it goes down to 911 and a half. And Tim Olson has said that it will be completed in the spring, I guess he said. And, I don't have a problem as long as it's completed, not like
Yeah.
it all goes away and I'm stuck with a ditch that's too deep.
We have a number of concerns. What you outlined tonight are some of those. We just aren't prepared to have a full planning discussion of what those are. So,
Okay. Thank you for hearing my concerns. Appreciate
absolutely.
it.
Thanks for being here. Next, we have Jake Ayers. Welcome.
Good evening. Mayor Bain and Forest Lake City Council, I'm attending tonight's City Council meeting to voice my concerns for the Forest Lake Police Department and the near future. I would like the council to know that I have lived in the area since 1978. I graduated from Forest Lake High School. I have lived in the township/city since 1994, and I am currently your most senior employee in the city of Forest Lake and Forest Lake PD with 29 years and 9 months of dedicated service, 32 and a half years as a licensed police officer. I raised my family here, and I live here in the community that I proudly serve every night from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. I had a very in-depth conversation last Tuesday evening with Chief Peterson, and he advised me and admitted that he was pushing forward his intentions for a second captain's position within the Forest Lake Police Department. It is my understanding that Chief Peterson has asked 4 or 5 previous times for the second captain's position. Chief Peterson intends to promote both Sergeant Hanegraaff and Sergeant Richard to these positions as part of his succession plan before he walks out the door into retirement. How impartial and transparent is this promotion process if he has openly discussed this plan? I then asked Chief Peterson why he is pushing for the second captain's position, and his answer was, quote, "It will be a financial wash in my budget because sergeants get overtime and captains are salaried," end quote. Chief Peterson said that with the 2 or 3 large cases that Sergeant Hanegraaff had in the detective division is equal to Captain Weiss's income at $135,000. I then asked Chief Peterson, was all the overtime for the cases split equally with Sergeant Hanegraaff, Detective Graff, and Detective Lafferty? Chief Peterson did not know the answer. It should be known that if a small city or medium police department asks the Minnesota BCA, they will usually offer their assistance to that department at no cost to the department. I believe if Chief Peterson is concerned about his budget, he could have excluded Sergeant Richard with attending the International Chiefs of Police Conference in San Diego, California, or allowing Sergeant Richard, Sergeant Hanegraaff, or Captain Weiss attending the Minnesota Chiefs Conference in Duluth, both of these at extremely expensive conference fees. It should also be noted that Sergeant Hanegraaff's wages include his 3% master's degree as well as his detective sergeant stipend before you count in his overtime. Chief Peterson could have been monitoring the overtime budget throughout the year and tracking how much Sergeant Hanegraaff was being paid on these 2 or 3 large cases to try and split up the costs. The Forest Lake Police Department, to make it blunt, is a mess, and we have not had any ethical leadership for over a decade. Mayor Bain, do you remember when I had a 2-hour meeting with you on December 28th, 2019? City Administrator Casey, do you remember a 2-hour meeting I had with you on March 10th, 2020? And I also had a 2-hour meeting with Councilwoman Bystrom on January 20th, 2020. I shared with each of you 19 different points of concern and major issues at the FLPD. None of you followed up with me, no emails, no letters, no phone call. I did, however, get harassed and passed over for overtime opportunities and interview panels since I came forward to voice my concerns with you about the FLPD administration. I asked the full city council, when is the last time any of you raised your hand and signed up to participate in a ride-along with one of our officers or sergeants? When is the last time that you had a true heart-to-heart conversation with any employee from City Hall, FLPD, the fire department, or the Public Works Department to get a true perspective from the employee's point of view on working conditions, morale, and the future of their careers? Forest Lake PD needs a patrol officer, not a second captain. We've been short a patrol officer since Max Bucall was laid off in the fall of 2015 as that city council was preparing to disband us for their own political motivations. FLPD needs 2 to 4 community service officers for a twofold solution. Number 1, they handle small tasks and assignments to handle instead of taking up a full-time officer's time. For example, barking dogs, lockouts, squad maintenance, evidence transports to the BCA, code enforcement, etc. They also get valuable experience at the FLPD, and most of the time CSOs will get promoted to a full-time officer position when an opening arises. It's a win-win for a CSO program. In conclusion, I want nothing but the best for the Forest Lake Police Department, and I will do anything to make this happen before I myself walk out the door into retirement. I can't stand by idly when the succession plan is flawed and when good quality, hardworking men and women of the Forest Lake Police Department have had countless meetings with Chief Peterson and Captain Weiss, Yet both of those two take zero accountability, and they turn the concerns on the employees instead of handling the problems head-on as solutions. Forest Lake PD needs help, and the internal process of captain, chief needs to be addressed as soon as possible. We need an outside chief's interview process when Chief Peterson retires to get a fresh set of eyes in our department and avoid the good old boy circumstances that we are currently dealing with now and no solution in sight. Thank you for your time. I will give each of you my business card with my personal cell phone number in hopes that you call me for my personal meeting to explain my concerns in greater detail, or any of the other officers or employees, secretary, staff that want to have Forest Lake PD the best we can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Ayers. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in open forum this evening? With that, we'll close open forum and bring agenda back to council. Council, for your consideration tonight are consent agenda items 7A through 7F. Is there a motion to approve or any changes?
Madam Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve consent agenda 7A through 7F.
Motion, is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to remove 7B.
Councilmember Husnick, will you amend your motion to remove 7B?
So moved.
All right, and so we have a motion on the table from Councilmember Husnick for 7A through 7F. I'm sorry, 7A and then C through F. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Husnick, a second from Councilmember Valento. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, and motion carries. Which brings us back to 7B, Councilmember Roberts.
So now that reading this, I thought it was from the October 23rd council meeting, which I was absent at, but I don't know if that minutes go back to that far. Are we approving minutes from September?
October 23rd?
Oh, yes. I'm looking at the wrong, yes, October 23rd, so.
And you are looking to abstain?
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Okay, I would move that council approve minutes from October 23rd, our regular council meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion, and we have a second from Councilmember Erickson. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain,
Abstain.
one abstention, and motion carries. Okay, that'll move us on to our regular agenda this evening. First item is Agenda 8A, Resolution 1113-2301, which is a donation from Morrie's Forest Lake Chevrolet. Thank you, Chief Newman.
Mayor and members of the council, we received this generous donation of $500 from Morrie's Forest Lake Chevrolet. It's staff recommendation to accept this donation with gratitude.
Thank you, Chief Newman. I would move that council approve with gratitude Resolution 1113-2301, donation from Morrie's Forest Lake Chevrolet. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Husnick. All those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Oppose, and motion carries. Next item is consideration of Resolution 1113-2302, donation from Forest Lake VFW, and Chief Newman.
We received this generous donation of $1,000 from the Forest Lake VFW. Staff recommendation is to accept this donation with gratitude.
And I would move that council approve with gratitude Resolution 1113-2302, the donation from the Forest Lake VFW. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Roberts. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and motion carries. All right, our next item this evening is item 8C, which is consideration of property 926th Street Southeast and a request to authorize a 463 action. Amanda, I believe you're starting us on this.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So in your packet this evening, sorry, this was on silent. In your packet this evening is consideration for 463 action on 920 6th Street South. We had talked about 463 actions briefly during the code enforcement presentation that I gave a couple months ago, but I'll do a quick summary of what a 463 action is, and then we will talk specifically about this property and why we are before you tonight asking for you to approve a 463 action on this property. A 463 action is a civil action regarding a hazardous building. It's codified in Minnesota statute 463. That's why we call them a 463 action. And what that chapter of the statute does is it gives a city the authority to be able to require a property be repaired, demolished, removed, raised, depending upon what's happening with the building in relation to a hazardous building. In this case, we're talking about a building that has been partially burnt out, but there can be a lot of reasons why you would be deemed a hazardous building. So the first step in a 463 action is the City Council receives an official report. This presentation that I'm giving to you tonight and the materials in your packet are that official report. The report needs to include the facts, provide the facts to you that would make the building a hazardous building. That is a defined term under the statute. So a hazardous building under the statute is any building that is that because of inadequate maintenance, dilapidation, obviously in this case a fire, abandonment, unsanitary situation, constitutes a fire hazard or a hazard to the public. So tonight what I will be asking for you is to consider approving a resolution and an order. What this resolution and this order is this resolution is recognizing all of the facts that I'm presenting tonight and are in your packet, and then also ordering the property owner to deal with a hazardous building. In this case, it's demolishing and removing the hazardous building and providing them with a reasonable time to complete that work. What happens then is that order is served on the property owner, and so that was actually with like personal service. So that's not mailed, that is personally served to them. In this case, the property owner is a bank. It's a repossessed property, and so we would be serving it on the designated agent for the bank. So that order is served on the bank. There are no additional lien holders and there are no tenants in this case. And then the owner would have 20 days to provide an answer essentially to the city if they were disputing facts or anything that would be in this resolution/order that we'd be serving them. If they serve an answer, then it essentially follows a traditional litigation path. Then we go to court, we file in court, and that's where we would fight it out. But assuming, and overwhelmingly, they do not file an answer after the 20 days, then we take that same order that we served on the property owner and we bring it to the court. And we ask a court to find default judgment for us, essentially. That gives the city the ability to do the work. And so then ultimately we would go into the property, we would, in this case, demolish the building, remove the building, and then importantly, we're able to assess all of the costs related to every piece of this action against the property as a special assessment. So that's the process. Let's talk about this property specifically. So the property that we are looking at tonight is 920 6th Street in Forest Lake. The current owner, as I mentioned, is NBKC, a national banking company. The two pictures that you see on your screen, one is the front of the property of the home, and the second is the back of the home. From the front, it doesn't look so bad, but from the back, you can see this is a pretty dangerous property. To run through a timeline of the events, so the property was in the process of foreclosure in November of 2022. There may have been people still living there, but it was shortly to be coming for sheriff's sale. On November 22nd, there was a significant structure fire. The fire chief determined that the structure needed to be demolished at that time. January 5th, 2023 was the sheriff's sale. At the sheriff's sale, it was sold to the to the VA, to Veterans Affairs, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. They then in turn deeded it over to this NBKC in July of 2023. If you look a little bit further back, it looks like actually NBKC was the original owner, transferred it to the VA, and then So then the VA got it again, transferred it back. But NBKC has been involved for a couple of years with this property. Throughout 2023, the city's building official, Corey Murphy, did attempt to contact the VA multiple times. It was sort of a case of every time they would tell him he had to talk to somebody different and just wasn't able to really get anywhere with anybody. Same thing with trying to connect up with the owner, because of course these transitions, these deed transitions are delayed. So the VA didn't tell us, oh, we transferred title to the property. That was discovered when we do title searches and find that, you know, a month or so later when everything's recorded. September 3rd of this year, the property was listed for sale. The owner listed the property for sale and did in their listing acknowledge that there was extensive fire damage. October 17th, Fire Chief Alan Newman was able to speak with somebody from the owner. They claimed that the reason they hadn't done anything with the property was because they were having difficulty with the insurance company. And then on November 7th, the building official did post the property as a hazardous building and prohibit occupancy, primarily to prevent squatters or, you know, some other issue that we didn't want to compound what we were already dealing with. So these are just a couple pictures of the building so you can see what we're working with. Oftentimes in 463 actions, there's a little more nuance to whether or not it's a hazardous building. This isn't one of those. This is pretty obvious. It's hard to see. These pictures are from the real estate posting, so these were posted, you know, by the real estate agent. But like that window isn't a functional window; it's blown out. And then of course you have the back of the property, which is structurally unsound, and obviously continues to be a fire hazard, safety hazard, vermin hazard, all the things.
Amanda, can you flip back one?
Yeah.
I think the previous picture, I just want to confirm, the house, the structure that's on the right of the picture, that is the neighbor's
the
property,
neighbor.
right? So this is close proximity to neighbors on either side. I think that's just important to the overall condition.
Yes, yeah, you can kind of see here.
And right there too, yes.
This is in a traditional neighborhood where, yeah, the homes are close to each other. So this is what the property looks like now. So that leads me to what is in the resolution that an order that I'm asking you to consider tonight. Specifically, you will be finding that the property constitutes a hazard to public safety, health, and welfare, and that the structure is, in fact, a hazardous building as that definition is defined in statute due to that structure fire. And that you are also, pursuant to the authority you have in statute, ordering the bank to demolish, raze, and remove all the remaining portions of the property on or before January 2nd, 2024. So they will have until the end of this year, essentially, to get this done. If they do not either file an answer once this is served on them or complete that by January 2nd, 2024, then I will file this resolution in order with the court to get the court's permission for us to go in. We will go in, the city would hire, you know, a third-party contractor, obviously, to go in, demolish the building, remove the building, and then all of those costs will be tracked and they will be assessed against the property. So I'm open for questions, or if not, the motion that I'm looking for is the motion to approve this resolution number. My understanding is the resolution in your packet did not have this resolution number, so that's why I have it in big bold letters, what you guys need, what I'm asking for you guys to make a motion on. But I am also available for questions.
Thank you, Amanda. Let's just open it up, council. Questions you may have for Amanda or staff overall?
I don't have any questions. I've just talked to the neighbors close by there a couple times. In fact, it's a half a dozen times, and they're fed up with it, and rightfully so. This has been going on, well, exactly a year, right? Yeah. And there's no question that it's a hazard, so that's just my comment.
I would echo exactly what Councilmember Husnick just said. I'm not sure I have anything else to add other than this is why we have these on the books, to be able to do this type of action. Unfortunate, I think we try to do everything else to avoid this, and in this situation, we just don't have a party that's being proactive, so. Any other questions, feedback? We're ready for a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 11-13-23-007, a resolution in order to demolish the hazardous building at 920 6th Street in Forest Lake.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Erickson, a second from Councilmember Husnick. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, and motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item this evening is consideration of the water softener refurbishment project pre-approval. Dave?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here seeking a pre-approval for 2024 water fund project. As you may recall, this is year 2 of a 3-year project in refurbishing the water softeners at the treatment plants. Last year, we sought approval within the 23 budget, and due to shipping delays and lining up contractors, we ended up doing this in the middle of April, beginning of May, which really kind of interfered with our usage going up. So this year we're looking to get a pre-approval just so we can order the media and get that shipped here on, so we can hopefully do it in January, and if it delays, maybe February. We pushed it a little too close to peak season last year that I think it's a little wiser to try to get it done during the winter time. The quote did come in just slightly under the budget amount of $135,000. So I'm just here tonight to answer any questions or seek approval or pre-approval for this order.
Thank you, Dave. Council, any questions you may have? Just clarification, purchase would happen 2023, but no cash or no payment until 2024. Is that what's still expected?
Yeah, basically we just give them approval to place the order for the media, and then once it arrives, we would pay for it, but that's not projected until early January, so no funds would be spent until 24.
Yeah, appreciate not pushing the timeline on this, so I'm happy to entertain it, but
Yeah, happy
open
to hear
to
it's
any
under
other-
budget.
Any other feedback council may have?
Well, I'd make a motion that we approve the softener refurbishment project as requested from Dave.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Husnick and a second from Councilmember Valento. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and motion carries. All right, next up, we have consideration of the Forest Lake Cable Commission 2024 budget, and Paul. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you for having me, Mayor, City Council.
Glad
I
you're
am
here.
here to request approval for the Forest Lake Cable Commission 2024 budget. I sent you a packet with the budget and kind of a cover summary of some stuff we did this year and some of our struggles for possibly next year. And I can just answer any questions you guys might have to explain the situation if you want a little bit, or where we're at and what we're working on for next year.
Can you maybe just summarize a little bit on just what the overall ask is and what you see as some of those challenges coming up in 2024?
So the
Just
big
high
challenge
level.
is this entity was put together back in the 1980s for cable television, and it was fully funded. It was the only way to see meetings like this was through your cable channels. And it worked that way for many, many years. Now with streaming services, cable subscribers are dropping every year, and they have been for quite a while. And this year, they hung a little bit last year because of some carrier dollars, some new cable lines were able to be run, so it kind of hung a little bit, and now that's just started to go off again. Midco just got a grant, so in the next couple of years, they will ever be able to send cable through wireless towers, and they're looking for 100% coverage for cable. So it may have a little reprise in the future, but it's just one of those entities that they don't get very many cable TV subscribers, and we are not included in the cable internet subscribers. And I've learned through the organization in Minnesota called MACTA that kind of fights and for cable stations and organizes them together, that Comcast and Charter do give some of their internet dollars to some of their cities. So that's what we're looking towards in the future. I'm going to a MACTA meeting on Wednesday. Specifically, the purpose of that meeting is to help stations find other forms of revenue. So we're looking at sponsorships for revenue in the future, but we just kind of crossed that threshold where, we have three main things, and that's just salaries, rent, and insurance. And everything else is been bare bones for 3-4 years. And so we just kind of, those two things crossed with the cable subscribers going down and the big three things going up, that's just kind of where we're at right now. We are going to try to bring that back. Like I say, as we have a lot of our live streams, we get quite a few live viewers. So that's why I'm going to reach out for local business subscription or sponsors to help us with some of this. The girls hockey boosters just sponsored their whole season for us to come do, which helps us a place to play sponsors for local businesses in. We have a new podcast, which I'm going to show you some stuff on in a little bit here, that I think will eventually take off. And so that's another revenue to get some sponsorships in there. I spoke with a local grant writer today, so we may get together and work on something that way for the dollars, but that's kind of where we're at. Last year, I mean, this is one of those things we've seen coming for years, and so we were looking at ways to either the cable commission can get blended into Forest Lake City somehow, and that can offset the cost, where we even talked about I would come on and even do some graphic design jobs for the city as to offset some of the money. But that, and then it could even be my position alone got absorbed in and the rest of the station stayed there. We looked at a few options with Dan, and so they were kind of still on the table when he left. And so we will figure out a way to fix it. I just don't know what that is yet.
But just to make sure I'm clear on 2024 budget, so am I reading this right, that the 2024, we're expecting a budget shortfall of about $9,200?
About $9,200,
Is
yes.
expected to be the shortage?
Yep.
I guess, and just for full transparency, fund balance is about $145,000. So I guess my concern is, do we feel that this is a conservative budget and that there is a high likelihood that that is the only amount that we are short from a revenue standpoint? Or are there assumptions built into perhaps the revenue model, which is maybe I would expect the more challenging to predict? That, are you concerned that it's not a shortfall of 9,200, but a shortfall of 30,000 or something much larger?
We think it's a shortfall of 9,200.
Okay.
Yeah. Next year, we will have the audit again, so that will add 8,000 on top of that as well. And next year's salaries, our salaries are going up 3.1%, just kind of the average, and our rent goes up 1.5%. So those are things we can kind of predict where they're going to be. The cable subscribers fluctuates monthly, but it kind of hangs in the same general area. So, and we kind of estimated, our money comes from, you give us, I believe it's 89% of the franchise fees that Midco gives to you. And so we're just basing our numbers next year on where we're at this year and kind of averaged out where this year is. So that will fluctuate a little, but it's usually pretty close.
Do we have also some flexibility? I see that there's some planned equipment expenses. Is there some flexibility on that timing, that if revenue were to fall off faster, that we could slow some of those equipment purchases?
So that's a little bit of a gray area, because that equipment money is specifically supposed to be earmarked for equipment and equipment only.
Understood.
But I've been attending some of these lawyer meetings with the bigger cities through MACTA, and some of them are intermingling because they don't have a choice. And some of them even say they're given this big thing of money and they don't have any employees, so they don't have anything else they can spend it on. So they are kind of intermingling those two. We don't do that, but I don't know what happens if you do. I just know that I just learned that some other stations are doing that, so.
Council, any other questions that you may have or feedback? I guess I'm interested in, maybe we put it on the 2024 work plan around just overall structure of how do we, continue to work on,
Yep. And the Cable Commission has gone over this quite a bit, trying to just look for revenues. I'm rewriting our sponsorship policy now, because it used to be pretty hard what you could and couldn't do advertising-wise to a point, but we're crossing a threshold. I'm keeping it local businesses, it's not bringing in a lot of things. I'm just trying to do things that help local people that want to view our stuff. And again, this used to be a cable TV thing, so the only people that saw it was cable TV. The people that give us money. Now everything I do streams. It's
all
just out
media.
there. So
Yeah.
it's all out there. So unfortunately, where my money's coming from, I'm giving the stuff to other people, but it's more important for the community than it is to kind of hold that line.
Right. I think that's You just stated that really well. That's the challenge, is it's not just, yes, it started as cable, your fees are tied to cable. That is, you know,
If we
a
could tap
diminishing-
into the internet, sorry to interrupt, if we could tap into the internet revenue, that would help us a lot.
Right.
And so, but our joint powers agreement that we have with Columbus and Midco doesn't end until 28, so I don't know that that's something would be rewritten until then.
Yeah, the values in the media production for sure, and
Yep.
so, yeah. Any other questions, thoughts?
I have a process question for Amanda. Just double checking, since I am on the cable commission, is it okay for me to vote on this, or should I abstain?
Your Honor, Counsel, do you receive any compensation for being on the?
No. And I'm on it for city council purposes, but just making sure.
So, okay, do you make, what sort of decisions do you make on the commission?
Like employee decisions, policy decisions, budget decisions.
Okay. So this would probably be a gray area. You can abstain if you would like to, so that there isn't the perception of, a conflict of interest. But this wouldn't be something where you would this is doing math at the table, which is not always a good idea, but this is probably the gray area and not the black and white option. But my recommendation would be to abstain.
Yeah, because I haven't been here the last 2 years that I've been on council, that the budget has been approved, the cable commission budget has been approved. I have actually been out of town, so that's why I'm bringing it up tonight, because I just thought about it, because I wanted to motion to approve since I'm on the cable commission, but then that thought.
I think it's just awesome that you brought that up,
I
just in
think-
particular, just because I've been here forever and it's required that we have a council member on our commission.
Right.
And they've always voted. But I just think it's awesome that you come up from the legal standpoint and go, let me see this.
That would be good to get some clarification on. We have a
Yeah.
similar situation when we vote on fire items related to the joint fire board, so, just items for future consideration, but fully respect your decision if you want to abstain tonight.
Yeah, so knowing that, I'll just abstain for purposes of ease, unfortunately.
Anyone interested in making a motion this evening?
Sure, I'd make a motion that we approve the Lakes Area TV Cable Commission 2024 budget as presented by Paul.
Motion, is there a second?
Well, second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Husnick and a second by Councilmember Roberts. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and motion carries.
And one
One
abstention.
abstention.
Oh, I'm sorry, and one abstention. Thank you.
Now that I have you here, can I hand you something?
You sure can.
So we have a brand new podcast that's kind of covering all different aspects. We have a new one with the students. We just did our first one on child psychology. The next one is, I think I'm gonna go back to the podium there. I did one with the football team this year. We're probably gonna do one with the girls hockey team. And we are instantly on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Google. We get quite a few, we have a few thousand listeners going through football this year, and it catches on pretty good. And so I just thought it was a perfect thing for local government, a more informal. I have a phenomenal podcast set up in the high school, but if that was easier here, I also have a portable one I can take anywhere, and we just sit down once a week, once a month, bring in a guest, bring in, a local business owner, somebody just to get some insight on what's going on here. I always thought it'd be cool to explain almost a little bit personally why you vote a certain way, and everybody brings their own personal life experiences as to why they're making a decision on something, and just explain that to people for the transparency part of it. So I just think this would be great. I did pitch the same thing to Columbus, and they're pretty interested, so.
Do you, so this is active now? And
This is active now. If you go to wherever you get your podcast and search out Lakes Area TV, I will pop up there.
Wow. And what's your distribution? Like, so you started when? I'm just curious on.
I started this pitching it to students, and right now the only students that I have are doing a video game podcast, surprise. And they actually do pretty good, but then the football one kind of got it more and more popular, and then I just kind of went and pitched it to the career counselor at the school, and she came up with this idea of all these cool things that was going on at the school that nobody knew about. So we just started recording those now as well.
So video games.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, video games, football, city council is the
Yep.
next closest topic.
There you
Like,
go.
It just makes
There you go.
sense.
And I'm talking with a local business owner and she would just come in as just a personal, this is what it's like running a small business
Right.
in Forest Lake. Here's the struggles I go through, here's the joy of it, here's why I love doing it. Just a personal thing. And so I'm open for any kind of topic.
And you're moderating them?
Yes.
Excellent. Very good.
Well, no. If needed, you mean actually on the podcast? No, I let the people, I can if they want, but like for the football one, I brought in the quarterback from 2 years ago, and he would interview the head coach. And on Mondays, they would break down last Sunday's game, or last Friday's game, and what's coming up this Friday. So for the school we did, I have the career counselor, the teacher of the children's psychology class, and 2 of the students that were in the class. And they just had a conversation about it. Students, what it was like to be in it, teacher, what it was like to teach it, and why she likes it. So it's more of I can throw questions, but I would rather have the people that are in it just have a conversation.
So you're editing, and you're, okay.
And right now, there is almost zero editing from any of these. Once they get in the room and they talk about stuff they're passionate about, they just go, and it comes out. I had a student and the career counselor for the last one were supposed to leave 10 minutes in, and 40 minutes later, they were still sitting there. And when it ended, I'm like, I thought you guys were supposed to go, and they're like, this was so awesome, we couldn't leave. So it was just kind of cool to watch. So I'm open for any kind of ideas, local businesses. I'm gonna go talk with Nan next week about a chamber one, and maybe just local businesses come in once a week, once a month, and just talk about, the passions it takes to run a business and the hard work, so.
Very good.
Just thought I'd throw it at you guys, and if you wanna get together, I can bring it to you, you can come to me, and it
Excellent.
can be anything. Hannah and I talked a few years ago about maybe some students that are really interested in politics to come and talk to a council member and see what kind of impacts they can make as students at this point, and how things decided here affect them at the school that they might not know, so.
Excellent. Thank you.
That's it.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 8F, Council for your consideration, Resolution 1113-2304, which is approving the LRIP grant agreement, professional services, and this is Ryan, is this you?
Mayor, City Council, agenda item before you is the request to approve LRP grant agreement, professional services for Eureka Avenue. The improvements are being funded through a legislative earmark grant from state general funds and will be administrated by MnDOT State Aid through the 2023 Local Road Improvement Program. The city is required to enter into a grant agreement with the MnDOTs before the LRP funds can be authorized. All the budget within here matches what was in the bonding bill request. This is just going through the formality to approve and adopt the grant agreement, so funds can be reimbursed as the project goes on. We'll have a second agreement related to construction upon bid. Once we get into the construction items too, that will require a separate agreement for MnDOT to track the funding through the project. But tonight our request is to approve the LRP grant agreement, professional services.
Very good. Thank you, Ryan. Council, any questions for Ryan, follow-ups?
And then the construction one is gonna be totally separate, I mean, look at the bid and that kind of thing?
Yep,
Okay.
correct.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan.
Any other questions? I'm ready for a motion? if
This is a
anyone-
great opportunity to fix something that's been needed fixed, and the state stepped forward, and thanks to Patrick for his hard work and on all this. So I'd make a motion that we approve Resolution 11-13-23-04, approving the LRIP grant agreement for professional services.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Husnick, a second from Councilmember Valento. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and motion carries. Next item is consideration resolution 1113-2305, authorizing pursuit of 2023 LRIP funding for CSAH 32. Ryan.
Yep, Mayor, City Council, this is actually the pursuit to go obtain another grant that would buy down our local share for the County State Aid Highway 32 project or 11th Avenue. So before we get into that application, full submittal, we want to make sure that you guys are okay with us pursuing that grant opportunity, and the application due date is December 8th, 2023. We would be requesting $1.5 million towards our local share on that project, and then obviously, if other things continue to move along with the Forest Road realignment, we'll be continuing to pursue other funding opportunities for that as well.
That project in particular is challenging, so whatever we can do to help ease local share, I will move that council approve resolution 1113-2305, authorizing pursuit of 2023 LRIP funding for state CSAH 32. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Councilmember Erickson. All those in favor, any discussion, further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Oppose? And motion carries. Next before us, council, we have resolution of 1113-2306, a resolution to formally censure Councilmember Roberts. I would move that council approve resolution 1113-2306. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
One abstention. Thank you. That concludes our regular agenda this evening. We are going to move into a couple of workshop topics. Anything that we talk about in this workshop portion that requires official action will come back before council in an official meeting. So this by nature will be a more informal discussion as intended to be so. We have two items this evening. First is a debrief on our 2024 budget update, and I call it a debrief because we just came out of a community feedback session. Patrick, do you want to open us up, and then we'll open it up for some council feedback?
Yeah, I will open it up with a few things, and then I will hand it over to Kevin to give his input to the council on where we're going in the future here. I thank all for showing up and coming to the open house for the budget. I thought it's actually pretty well done for our first time doing something like that. Hopefully, if we do that again, attendance will be better, but I think it's good, and we will put all that information on the website, a link so that people can watch the videos and see the slideshows, and hopefully be more educated on what's in the budget. The other thing I wanted to review is I sent the council a memo through email regarding the open positions, and I wanted to give you an update on those. I'll just reiterate what's in the memo. We have two current open positions, which is was the assistant city administrator and the deputy city clerk. Both left for an advancement in their careers. We did advertise one position with not really great responses as far as going into the market. That's really, speaking with some other people, other professionals, it's very difficult right now, like many jobs across the country, to fill these positions with qualified candidates. What I have done to try to solve that issue is I've engaged David Drown and Associates to do a study what we should be looking at as far as particularly these two positions, but also what our administrative functions should look like. Do we have the right positions? Do we need to look at different, the city hasn't really looked at any change in how we should be organizationally structured since like 2014, when they pretty much collapsed all of the functions into a very few amount of people. So the question is, do we really need an assistant city administrator, or what should that look like really? Should it be those duties, or should it be some other duties, HR, for example, or whatever the case may be? Do we need really a deputy clerk, or is that an administrative assistant, or some other kind of, convoluted thing that we need? So I think it's important to see that. I've also asked them, again, like I said, to look at finance and community development. Since we have a number of new positions in community development, and we're requesting community development positions, and we have finance positions, we should take a look at all the administrative support issues. We really don't need to look at the police department beyond what already we have. We did have a study 5 or 7 years ago, issues brought up tonight maybe or should be addressed, but right now, we don't really need to look at the police department. The fire department, well, we have one employee basically there and paid on call, so there's not a lot to look at there, except for eventually looking at who should, the succession plan in the fire department, which we didn't get the grants to fill those positions we were hoping for.
We did not.
We did not. We will continue to try to get grants to have some positions included in the fire department. And we don't need to look at Public Works, really. It's pretty solid and stable. So looking at all the administrations, I think is a real good idea. It's always good to get an outside look to see what we're doing, to give a different opinion, maybe something that I don't see or the department heads don't see. So that study is starting tomorrow. David Drown Associates will be here interviewing department heads and other staff members. They are also requesting to interview the council about what your views of staffing is and what levels those should be. So I will be sending you an email asking you for some times. It doesn't have to be in person, it can be by phone. But I think it's important also to hear what you think we need, because you may have a totally different opinion of what we need versus what we think we need. So, but it's good to get all that out on the table and move forward with that. So that's continuing, that's important. One of the things I suggested is that we have a certain number of positions that are slated for next year, the new positions that we've requested. Now, the council has already removed the CSO from consideration at one of their last workshops. So that leaves us the code enforcement, the engineering position, the planning and EDA position, and the stormwater technician. I would say that maybe we should keep those in the budget, not fill them right away, and have the company look at those as well, and only budget them at 3/4 of a year. So if we actually need those positions, or it's found that we possibly need those positions, that we delay the funding or the filling of the positions until at least April 1st. That'll give us a savings of approximately $90,000 to do that if the council approves those positions. It doesn't mean you have to approve those positions, but if we determine we're going to go forward with those 4 positions, I would wait until this report's done. I expect the report, again, to be done in December, probably not in time for the December meeting, but come January, first meeting in January, I would expect a report from David Drown Associates and see what those results are. And then the council and the staff can work through what those recommendations are and where we should be going. I would really argue strongly that once we know that, we need to we'll probably need to fill some positions quickly. Mm-hmm. Being the market is the way it is, I would also recommend hiring David Drown to do some of the recruitment and particularly some of the higher level positions, because they can actually go out and search out people and call people and try to find quality candidates. I don't know the price tag on that. That will be brought back to the council probably at the same time to see what the price tag is if you approve. But I think it's important that we haven't been greatly successful in recruiting because of the market. Usually, it's been my experience when we've, for example, let's just say Dan's position, the administrative, assistant administrative position, we would have gotten a high number of resumes for that in the past. 20, 30, from all over the place. Qualified candidates, we got 3 or 4. And I think we need a bigger pool than that. So once we get through the report on what positions we need, I will take a second look at recommending that we have a search firm look for some of these employees. Again, that's a decision we don't have to make now. If the council doesn't want to invest in that kind of thing, that's fine, but we will at least present that as an option.
Is
The
it
other things
possible,
are
I have
Go
a
ahead.
question. Is there a possibility for him to expedite that report, rather than issue report end of December, which is essentially kind of 6 weeks from now, could we engage him to do a 3-week, same scope, but get it through it in 3 weeks to fast track it?
We talked about that, and I'm not sure that he can do that. This is a pretty fast track to be done early in the mid-December. I will talk to him more tomorrow. What I think we could have him look at is look at the 2 open positions that we have right now and say, okay, what do those look like, what are those needs? But I'm not sure that that's a great, an idea that we just pick those 2. Maybe I think we need a whole look. But I think December is a quick one. If we make a decision, I'm going to press you to make a decision in January. so that we can get that on the street and get those filled February or March at the latest. Because we are, as you all know, we're down to major positions that have had a lot of different hands and a lot of different things. So we are having people covering that, but that can't last long. And speaking of covering, two of the concerns that with those two positions vacant, one was the council packets, recording of minutes and things like that that Karen did, that the deputy clerk did. The planning administrative assistant, Dawn, is in charge of doing all the packet material that you've got, and we'll take a lot of those duties from and forward those. The licensing that's coming up, that's liquor license, tobacco, massages, all that. We have a finance clerk, administrative assistant is going to take that over for a short period of time if possible. She's working on that now. We tried to get her trained for the short notice time that we had with Karen. The minutes of your meetings, you see nobody's here taking minutes. We have contracted that out to a minute-taking firm. They actually do, that's a lot of what they do. They do a lot. I was surprised, I didn't know this existed. But there's a firm out there that does city council minutes and meeting minutes. And so what they'll do, they'll review either the videotape or the audio tape or whatever they view and do your minutes. And it's a pretty good price. And if, as the memo stated, anybody who's ever taken minutes, which probably most of the people in this room have had, you have a 3-hour meeting and then you have to go back and listen to that 3-hour meeting again. So you're wasting, and that in between all the interruptions of your day and phone calls and people, that 3-hour meeting is going to last a day or two to get the minutes done. So it's really pretty inefficient. This way, somebody's just sitting there recording the minutes, putting in the structure. We have given them our format for the minutes, so hopefully it won't change. We'll scrutinize that very carefully the first few minutes, but that's also going to be the Plan Commission and any of the other larger commissions that we have. So I think it's a good idea. It'll work. It may be a permanent fix for what we do. I think we'll see. And communications is obviously the second big concern. We have a lot of information that needs to get out, whether it's through our website, Facebook, we have a Nextdoor page, we have our email blasts, and so forth. I have also now engaged a firm out of Stillwater who works with the city of Stillwater to do our communications for 3 months. They will update their websites, they'll send out our email blasts, they will do our social media platform. We're meeting with them and the department heads tomorrow to set up the process. Basically, they will have communications between the department heads or whoever has information to publish on a weekly basis and being responsible for getting that information out. We'll see how it works. We're positive. They seem experienced. They seem to know what they're doing. They seem to be experts in that area. Hopefully that will work. Don't know if that's a permanent solution. I'm not sure that really is. Communications is really dependent on the organization and the nuances there. So I would expect that would be a real hard look at the consultant on what positions we need to look at communications as well as, because these days, I mean, with all the social media, with all the everything, that's where people go. That's where we need to be stronger doing that. We're not very strong doing that. We've gotten by. We've split it between 3 or 4 different people, but hopefully the consultant will give us a better idea of how we should structure our communications position possibly, or at least part of a position for communications. I think that's it covered so far. Questions from the council at this point?
Questions?
Just a couple here. On for this consultant or this study, what is the charge on that? I don't know.
$6,000.
$6,000. And then just some thoughts to the rest of the council. I think in light of some of the things that have happened here, I think that we should really look at an HR position, whether it's part-time or not. And I think we need to do that as soon as, for this upcoming budget. That's feedback from just employees and different things. I feel pretty strongly about that. I know it's kind of a short runway to get there, but it's a large organization, and so a lot of things come up, and human resources is very important. So I don't know how we fit that in at this point, but I think that's something that,
Patrick, do you see that on the list of things that
I
will
see
be
that as-
evaluated?
I see that as a very top priority. As an organization, we've been dependent, we've been splitting, even before, even when I first got here, HR between 3 different people, whether it's finance, whether it's the assistant or myself. Some of the more sensitive stuff is myself. Lately, it's been myself and Kevin. We can get through, but what we've been doing also is leaning heavy on our labor attorney, which is expensive. And we've had some major things we had to go through, some FMLA issues, some other complaints that we've had to go through. Beyond that, and some things we don't do is we don't train our employees very well. We don't send them to the sexual harassment cases. We don't go and bully. We don't office. I mean, all the things that you hear about in the news, people, organizations getting in trouble for, we need to train our employees for those issues, sexual harassment, bullying, hostile workplace, whatever the case may be. A lot of organizations have a rotating cycle of those. We also need somebody to monitor and follow up on training issues and things like that. We just need somebody to do all the things that are associated with HR. I mean, we can, you know, the organization, the department heads can see in their heads what we need. We just haven't been able to get there because, again, we're a small staff compared, and it's always been trying to work the budget as low as possible. So I think that's a real important. You've got communications and HR that are probably on top of the list here for what I will be talking to the consultant about tomorrow. I don't know I can't speak for the department heads, but if I had my guess, they would be a similar idea of what we should be talking about.
so with that said then, is there, you know, with the positions that we're already considering, that's been part of the conversation since the beginning, is there any thought and maybe appetite to the council to change that, to put HR position into that mix at this point?
And I think that's why I'm asking you to maybe fund those positions, but not authorize the hiring, because that may give us the room to maneuver within those salaries and things like that. I know that some of the positions you're still struggling whether we should have them or not. If you want to substitute in HR or put that in the mix, you know, it's an expensive one. It's going to be a very expensive one. Looking at HR as I have in the last month or two and the positions that are out there, I mean, salaries in 120s to 130s plus benefits. That's what's on the market. So, but I really think it's important. Obviously, there's some thought on the council that has probably become more important lately than it has been, but we are a larger organization. We are only going to get larger. We're only going to have more problems. Not that I'm saying we have bad employees, it just happens. Things come up. People have family issues. People have disagreements between staff and say something stupid. Those things happen. So, you know, instead of constantly calling our HR person, our labor attorney, which we depend on, hopefully a trained HR person can hopefully navigate through some of that stuff that we won't have to do that.
And to that point, you end up saving some money, having some of that position instead of, you know.
Councilmember Erickson,
Yeah,
I don't think you had a comment.
Yeah, I guess I like the fact that you're pursuing this consultant to kind of get some outside input on, you know, how the things should be organized and what are the right jobs. I think it's a good time to reset. You know, as I've shared, I, you know, have some hesitation about bringing on too many more positions. I think there's a slam dunk in the list, which I wouldn't want to wait till April to fill, you know, around the code enforcement. But yeah, I think, you know, having more focus on HR. I mean, throughout the workshops, you've called out that that's a need. So that's not a surprise, but I think that we might want to, I certainly would want to pivot and make that a higher priority.
Do we, so I don't disagree with that. I guess I'm looking for council to have as many options as possible as we're reviewing the results of that report and seeing how that duties deck might get shuffled in that report and that recommendation. Do we need to specifically name the positions in the budget, or is it appropriate for us to have a placeholder for positions, and we can reallocate or change. We're approving a budget, not positions, right?
What I'm suggesting is that while we've named these positions, maybe it's better to put a pool of money in, whatever that number is, so that when we get this report and understand, the consultant should tell us what, and we should rank what those priorities are. So if I'm just going to give you an example. If the consultant comes back and says, you don't need an assistant administrator, you need an HR person. So you have an HR person, and that assistant administrator becomes, I don't know, a management analyst or another administrative assistant instead to get the works done. If you need an assistant city administrator, can that person be that and an HR person? You know, there's a lot of, I mean, just shuffle the deck and see what comes up. I mean, we still have to discuss an airport person and where that lands, excuse the pun there, but where it lands, and what position and what department that falls under.
Right.
Whether it's, you know, running the airport budget and the meetings and going with MnDOT, or whether it's, you know, taking care of the maintenance. Those may be two different things that we, you know, maybe Public Works does the maintenance kind of side, plowing, and does that, and somebody else does all the administrative side of that. So, yeah, I would recommend a pool. You know, yes, I would love to, I think the code enforcement's important. I think we could probably move forward with that. I do think the planning and EDA person would be my second choice. And then, you know, we can go from there. Stormwater, if we have to wait, that's okay. We've already knocked off the community service officer. The council didn't seem too enthused about the engineer the last time we spoke. But these are the things we're gonna have to talk about next week. So instead of arguing what those positions should be, I would recommend that we decide on a pool of money, and I'd have to sit down and do that, and say, you should put this in there.
Got to work within that amount of money, yeah.
Yeah, I think I would appreciate the flexibility of having that pooled approach. I think we owe the transparency of the types of positions that are being considered, so it's not just whatever idea might walk in the door in January, but I think it's kind of, you know, I know there was, for example, if we could pick on the engineer position, I know that there was some hesitation on the engineer position, and that might not be the right time for us to pick up an engineer position, but we might need those dollars for some additional HR resources, and however else the recommendation comes back. What's challenging about this task is that we have a unique opportunity to align the positions correctly going forward and to unwind some awkward job distribution that's happened over the years. And we have a chance to do that, but it isn't, you know, these were job distributions that happened over 10+ years. And so to unwind that and to get that into the right slate of people, I think now is a good time to do it. And I think we should kind of, you know, take the time to get it right.
Yes, so for next week's workshop, I think I recall what the ask was for like the 5 positions, what that dollar figure is. But what is the dollar figure that represents those other 2 open positions, so we know what the whole pool is?
Yeah, we'll have that for you.
Yeah, that's a good
We will
ask.
bring back to you next week the 5 positions we asked for, what the pool of money is, and we'll give you the pool for the 2 open positions right
That's a
now.
good ask.
And we'll see where we go. I know we need to fill something sooner than later. However, the biggest mistake we sometimes made in hiring is that we hire somebody just for the sake of hiring it, and it's a mistake. If you just settle for a lesser candidate because you're just afraid of a vacancy, it's just the wrong way to do it. Made the mistake probably a few times myself, but you get panicked. But what we will try to do is find the right position first and then the right position, and that's why the consultant's important, to help us find more qualified people instead of waiting for somebody from Indeed who works at McDonald's to apply for the assistant administrative position. That's happened. That's what happens. So we need to, find the positions, and we need to find qualified people to do the jobs.
And just a comment on, so first off, to the staff that's picked up the balls here, I appreciate that. Is there an opportunity, or, if things are being missed, or if they're working overtime to compensate and show that appreciation for stepping up? Or?
Had that discussion this morning with the ASME union, so we were working on it.
Okay.
Can't tell you exactly what we're going to do yet, but that was a concern from the union because the people who are picking up the slack are ASME employees.
Okay, good.
You mentioned maybe is Kevin?
Yes,
have
I'm sorry, I'm done.
budget
I was
update?
going to make sure there's no more
Yeah,
questions
no,
on this.
anything else on this? And it also sounds like this conversation kind of moves into next week as well.
Yeah,
Is
well, we
that-
will bring back the pool money and I'll have a better idea speaking with David Drown Associates tomorrow on the report process. But I wouldn't count on it coming any earlier than December. It's a tight time. It's already the 13th of November, and so usually they take a lot longer, but once we explained to them what was going on, they said they could get it done. Unfortunately, they just hired a new a person to do this kind of work, so he was free, and we kind of got a little lucky on that one. So, because the other places we contact weren't going to be able to do it, and David Drown's a good firm. I've worked with them before. So, Kevin, sorry.
All right, Mayor and City Councils, I'll call it a quick update just on the budget. I know there's been some questions about what the impact on the tax levy is for commercial properties. So working with the county, I was able to come up with a preliminary estimate on what that is going to look like for some businesses in the city of Forest Lake. So I just picked 5 businesses, and in the far left column, you can see the preliminary value. That is taking last year's value and adding a inflator provided by the county for that. I've also included what the actual city portion was in 22 and 23, and what that is going to look like in 2024 preliminary. So you can see, for example, the top line for a commercial property that's valued at just under $500,000. The increase from 23 to 24 is about $1,100. I have also added a column on the far right, what the total increase was from 2022 to 2024. Because, for example, as you go down the line, if you go to the very bottom, the property that's valued at $1.358 million, there's an actual decrease in the amount of city taxes that property paid from 22 to 23. So even though there's an increase from 23 to 24 of just over $2,000, the actual increase in property taxes on that commercial property is about $1,166 from 23 to 24. So this wanted to provide this information to council as it was asked from there. The main reason with looking at, for example, a bottom property, it was the same value in 22 compared to 23. So the value of that property did not change for what they were taxed on, so therefore there was a decrease in 23. When there's an increase in 24, therefore there'd be a larger bump in 24, but over the last 2 years, you can see it's been just under $1,200. So I just wanted to provide that information to council. If there's any questions on it, I'd be happy to answer those.
So can you explain again why from 22 to 23, some of those buildings, their actual city portion went down?
They had the same value assigned in 22 as they did the same value was assigned in 2023 as assigned in 2022.
And was,
And our tax rate
our
went
tax rate went down.
Basically, the tax rate went down, and it kind of shifted to the residential a little bit at that point because of the 24% increase that was that year. So it really reshifted some of the funds, or some of the tax.
Kevin, is there a reason, so the range from 499 to 1.3, 1.4 million, this range, how did you pick this range? Did you just,
I picked businesses in the community and just, that's what they were. There was no rhyme or reason to that. It was just trying to look at the businesses and some of the commercial properties in the city, taking those values just to try to get a range of what they looked like, just for illustration purposes.
Thank you.
So unless there's any questions, it's just something that I know council is asking for. It is a little bit more complicated to come up with these numbers in a residential, so this was working with the county and whatnot. We were able to come up with this, so.
Yeah, thank you for pulling that together.
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of other budget updates, I believe this is gets a pretty high percentage of our time in our next workshop, is that right? Is that what's, so planned
Yeah,
for?
budget will be on our next workshop. We're closing in on the December meeting.
Yes.
We have to decide, or the council has to decide what they're comfortable with, and either give us time to react to that or to say we're settled with what we have. Obviously, we looked at all of the property tax rates on each of the funds. You've made some changes in that in rec, at Parks and Rec, and left others the same. So it really comes down to what's next with the positions, and then what else is there to do. You know, we need to know fairly soon for the December meeting. I don't like to try to go into a December meeting and start making last minute back of the napkin changes. So
Yeah.
both the workshop and the last meeting in November will be, pretty much should be the last times we start to but to alter any budgets that we have, so that when we come to the December meeting, we're pretty well set,
You mean highly educated calculations, right?
highly calculated.
So I'm just thinking about logistics of kind of reflecting on what we heard tonight. There's kind of good conversation happening in the community about overall levy. I personally could benefit from another working session similar to what we did when we set the preliminary levy, where we were upstairs in the community room, Kevin had his spreadsheet, we were able to kind of walk through a number of scenarios on the fly. I think that would be a good format again, considering that's really we have another regular council meeting, but it's really our first our last full working session before taking that first meeting in December. Any objections to us being in that format? Kevin might object, but I think we can talk him into it, right?
He'll manage.
And so I think maybe if there's anything in particular anyone would like to see, prepared in advance of that, certainly speak up this week to Kevin and Patrick. Otherwise, let's plan on kind of having that worksheet up and working through some different scenarios just to really kind of talk through, much like what we did before the preliminary levy. Sound like a plan?
Yeah, just
Okay.
one question. I don't know if this is possible to pull, but, when we're using that number of $399 or 400,000 and the increase is $16 a month or $13 a month that we saw in the video, and 165 a year, is there a way to find out what at this point the preliminary levy is for the school district and the county? Because, people don't break it out. They look at that bottom line, and that's what really hits them, and then we're the easiest contact, which is great.
Yep.
But to have that, I think, would help
Yeah,
me, for one, make that decision of where we're at, because it's our residents we're representing, and if there's other tax implications that they're being affected with, and I think we need to keep that in mind when we're making these decisions.
Yeah, we will, yes, the city always gets the hammer on taxes. There's no doubt, that's true. We will look and see if the preliminary levies for the school district and the county have been published. I'm sure they're working on those. They also have the same deadlines as we do. And sometime in December, usually they may be a little later. But yeah, we will see what the county and school district's done, and see try to put that same impact sheet, what the raise, or how it impacts, the $300,000 home, $400,000. So yeah, that's, we'll see what we can do.
Could we, if we could add to that request list, Kevin, could you pull those scenarios out a little bit further? I think our highest property value was under 500,000, and we just know just from new construction alone that we've got a fairly that reflects median, but there's I hear from vocal individuals that are on the higher end of that scheme, that would be helpful to just see that pulled out on what does that mean for a $800,000, $900,000 home.
So would you be, if it's a $500,000 home, would it be $750,000 and $1 million home? Would that be, or do you need something?
Something
between
like that would be helpful, yes.
Okay.
Rather than having people, in absence of it being there, cause a speculation, and it would just be good to know.
Yeah, especially if those homes are on the lake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Councilmember Erickson, I might have
No.
spoke over. Okay. Anything else specific to budget? All right, let's plan on a working session then at our workshop next week. And I think we're ready to move on to refuse and recycling contract.
Yes. As the council may know, we're under a contract with Republic Services for recycling and refuse until the end of 2024. This contract was inked out in 2019. To their credit, Republic did a great job in a very difficult time to switch our refuse and recycling contract. The current contract has an option for 2 5-year extensions if the council so desires. We really need some direction here if we want to go forward. If we want to bid this out to the greater business, refuse and recycling businesses, we need to do that soon because we're starting to cut the time short where if we had a new vendor, they could order equipment to service the city, trucks, carts, things like that. Those are a lot of lead times that we didn't have, in 2019. The lead times now are just outrageously ridiculous. So that's the case. In the packet, I sent you a memo regarding the rates that will possibly be proposed or are tentatively been proposed by Republic Services. You can see them. I tried to break this down so that you saw the trend of the contract period that we're in now versus what the rates might be going forward. Again, the other thing I really try to do is point out that as our residents get a little bit confused on the cost of our refuse and recycling and why it's so expensive, why they see it go up so much. And again, that's due to the disposal rate that Washington County puts on basically it's called the tipping fee, and how that impacts where our rates are looking in the for most of the years in the 4.5% range. When you don't include the recycling, the county tipping fees, you're seeing a larger amounts when you include the tipping fees. 30 or 15%. We already have the 24 rates, so I just wanted to make it clear that what it is before the county, because the county confuses. None of that even includes the county and state tax on top of that. So I didn't want to include that because that could make it even more confusing. So I really think we should concentrate on the basic refuse and recycling bill without the disposal fee. That shows the current contract period. Basically, we were in the 3.5% range on a year-to-year basis. And while 25 shows almost a 7%, the last 4 years are about a 4.5%. So I want the council direction whether we should move forward with negotiating a new contract with Republic, or we should bid this out. And I fully recommend that we negotiate a contract and not bid this out. This is a huge undertaking, not the RFP process, but the changeover process to a new vendor, and the field's very narrow. Waste Management, Republic, Walters Recycling, Walters Garbage and Recycling. It's about the 3 you'll probably find. And I know that Waste Management has had a number of problems with pickup and disposal. You all had an email today from me regarding a complaint from a homeowners association that basically had to get away from Waste Management because of service issues. They had hiring issues. And Beverly's here from Republic Service if you want to ask them, her any question, but I'll leave it for you to discuss and ask any questions that you may have.
Patrick, do you have a ability to pull up our packet on screen? I just want to make sure we're looking at the same.
I don't. See if I can get that up for you.
So while you're pulling that up, the items that are specifically within Republic's control would be items, is it at the top of page 177? Is it that top section?
Hold on a second, I've got to change this.
No, I think it's not. It's,
What do I do in this? How do I change it to? Sorry. This?
what I think I'm seeing is 6.97% increase for 2025, and then about a 4.5% increase for each of the years after.
Okay, I'm
There.
sorry, go ahead, what?
Is it, so the portion that is, within Republic's control,
Yes.
is it can you just highlight where that is?
It's right, basically right here.
Yeah, okay.
This is on page 177. It shows the basic refuse and recycling bill without the county disposal fee.
Yep. And the county disposal fee is universal for all haulers, right? So anybody else?
Anybody who dumps their trash in Washington, Ramsey County landfill gets dinged with the same amount.
So, council, open to feedback or questions that you might have, or what additional? Go ahead.
I realize I know when this contract was done, there was a lot of angst and a lot of work on that, but it's clear that it is a better situation to have a one hauler for a city as opposed to open market and letting.
Absolutely. And it's not so, it's, individual residents can decide on services, and we wouldn't get involved with that. The real issue is having that with open service from anybody. It's really the amount of garbage trucks that are going to be on your street that are going to increase, because I have Republic, my neighbor has Walters, somebody else has somebody else. I mean, so you could have you could have 5, 6, 7, 8 trucks on the same street, the same week instead of one truck. And we have enough trouble maintaining our streets. The impact of the weight of those trucks on our streets is catastrophic in some cases, especially in the wintertime when you're starting getting freeze and thaw, and the roads are a little softer and things like that. So, yeah, it's much better to have one.
Especially when they have to use the roads when there's road restrictions on.
Yeah, no, it's hard.
It's a horrible thing.
So no matter what, one hauler is a better way to do things.
My initial reaction on this is, so first, if you look at kind of the overall just increase from the middle section of what our rate increases were from the beginning of our contract, you know, we're at a modest about 3.5% rate increases, and then to see essentially, with the exception of 2025, that's jumping up by about 1% to rate increases at about 4.5%. Just knowing what I know about costs in general, that seems to be reasonable to me. I don't have any sticker shock. The one part it'd be nice to see is sharpen the pencil on 2025 of that one year of coming in just under 7 is a bit of a sticker shock. And so if we could do something there, that makes it a bit of an easier yes for me. That's my one caveat, just to give some reaction and
Just seems
kick
like,
out the conversation.
yeah, it just seems that we could maybe just take a quick look at what other cities pay residentially, you know, if there's a kind of a comparison there, because I don't think there's going to be much difference.
I
Personally.
don't believe there will be.
Initially, I made a statement that I think we should go ahead with where we are. I can't speak for everybody else, but it just seems like, I don't know where there's gonna be that much of a money savings, if at all, if we did that.
And I don't want to get too much into the details of the contract. I don't want to be negotiating here in public, so you have concerns, obviously, the 2025 is a concern. Are there other concerns with going with a renewal with Republic that I should know if that's the way the council is leaning?
I'm just curious what the no-out fee is on page 176.
That's if somebody doesn't take their garbage out and they miss the pickup.
And they come back and pick it up for them? Okay.
I guess I would just highlight, I say it as much for myself, we just need to remember that the rates that our residents see are the numbers up on top. And that is where we do hear pushback, and we just need to continue on the education and the feedback of, you know, those are county-related charges that are outside of everybody's control. Because it's easy, you know, as I just check myself, it's easy to get comfortable on, it's, you know, it's 4.5%, that's fine. But residents are seeing a number that's closer to 9 because of those tipping fees. But again, back to the question on the table, that's going to be a universal challenge for anybody that's in Washington County. So I'm not sure I have any other feedback other than we could even out a little bit of 2025.
That's the thing that Marge always pounded on, was the tipping fees, you know. You gotta know what's going on there, and no control, absolutely none. And it doesn't seem to be any negotiation on this stuff either.
No, the counties set that rate. Republic has to, you know, we know the 24 rates, that we have to kind of just anticipate what the 25 rates are, so that's just a pass-through, so.
It might not even go a year before they change the rates.
No, they change it annually, and it's usually a pretty big jump. And again, we work with Republic to educate our citizens. We will work every year to try to communicate to them why there's an increase and where it's coming from. Not to blame anybody, but just knowing that this is a business that we never want to be in. We don't want to be picking up garbage. We only want to be hauling it out, having a contract, and we don't want multiple contractors on the streets. So this is the avenue that we use. This is the best approach to this service for our residents.
I guess maybe council members, so good that we have this first look. I think maybe feedback individually back to Patrick. I appreciate the sensitivity. We don't want to negotiate a contract in a public meeting. And so I guess other feedback points, get back to Patrick. It's good to see this first look.
Yeah, we will then initiate contact with Republic and start discussions on the new contract. Again, we have until the end of '24. It seems to be that everybody's comfortable with that and that we will not go out. So unless the prices go crazy here, you'll see probably a renewal contract December or January, I would think, at this point.
Sounds good.
Very good. All right, should we move into staff updates? And we'll start with Abby.
The only update that I have is that there are active or open seats on all of our commissions starting next year. So we will be actively putting out a call for volunteer applicants on our social media and our weekly newsletter. If you know folks, send them online, and I can send out the link to where people apply. And that's all.
Thank you, Abby. Patrick.
I'd just like to thank Kevin regarding his work in the open house. I thought that for the first time it was actually done very well. The video came out better than I had ever expected it to, and knowing that we could never do that. And I hope the public understood what we were trying to do. Again, like I said earlier, we will be putting all of that on the website, and hopefully the residents will take a look at the video and the slides and better understand the challenge that we have with the budget and trying to put together a 10-year plan so that we don't, the councils 10 years from now aren't speaking to why are we at a 17% increase. So that's all I have.
Very good. Thank you, Patrick. Amanda.
Nothing for council tonight.
All right, thank you. Dave.
Just 1 week left of the compost site, so anybody having leaves, we have 1 week left. Otherwise, the Washington County one down in Hugo is still open year-round. It'll be open their scheduled times, but we've been busy. We almost hauled out a little over 70 loads since last Monday, so week's worth. It's been coming in quite heavy, so it's definitely getting used, and it'll definitely be nice when Washington County does it for us next year at their new site.
We'll let you cut that ribbon. Ryan?
Mayor, City Council, bringing this up because we might overlap a little bit. So next Monday, prior to this City Council workshop, Washington County was coming to do a public open house for County State Highway 2 or Broadway Avenue. Let's talk about that 2024 maintenance project that was going to occur. I don't know how you want to handle the rooms or coordinating, or do we move them down here? We could move them down here too.
Yeah,
So, but just, that starts at 4:30. It was scheduled 4:30 to 6:30, so talk about the Broadway Avenue maintenance project.
Very good. Thank you. And Chief Peterson?
No, no updates for me tonight.
Excellent. Chief Newman?
No updates.
All right. Kevin?
No further updates.
All right. Let's move to council updates. Councilmember Roberts?
No updates.
Councilmember Valento?
Just one update that I attended the Forest Lake Shoreline and Boat Launch Study last week. This was the second time we met, and we looked at two options for the shoreline and discussed practical options for the shoreline, and it was a very robust conversation, and I think positive conversation as well. But from that conversation, we were only supposed to have 2 meetings, but from that one, we decided that we should probably have a third. So that will be next Tuesday, the 21st. And I won't be in attendance for that because I will be out of town. So also next Monday, I will be gone as well, unfortunately.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Husnick?
No updates tonight, thanks.
Councilmember Erickson?
No updates tonight.
I will follow suit. No updates other than to just say thanks to staff for all the work and putting together the open house, and for the public that stopped by. Good to hear feedback. I know the conversations are continuing, and we really appreciate, we put a lot out there this year, and we really appreciate all of the feedback as we land this for final budget approval here in December. So more to come. With that, that is the end of our planned agenda. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Valento and a second from Councilmember Husnick. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.